laptop at work. So I'm zooming on my phone and it only allows me to see a few of you at a time. And I looked at that participant thing and it said, I think the last time I looked, it said 165 participants. And I'm sad that I can't see all of you, but I'm so glad to be here. Um, my sobriety date is March the 6th of 2010. Lambton is my home group. I am sponsored by a woman who is sponsored by a woman who is sponsored. I believe in good sponsorship. I am surrounded by recovery that is literature based and spiritually directed. I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but I surround myself with people who have what I want. And that turned out to be these people that had literature based sobriety, but had expounded and evolved in their spiritual life in such a way that they were able to deal with circumstances, weather storms, go through crisis, and do it with a grace that I had never seen displayed before. And that intrigued me, man. I wanted that. My sponsor is a woman who has lost a child in sobriety. She's lost two children and recently a grandchild. And I remember when her son died, and I was only about 3 years sober then. And we, did what AA does, showed up at her house. We were taking food and taking her out to meetings and what can we do and what AA does. The fellowship was showing up. And I remember just 3 years sober and not having explored or experimented, right, with step 11 completely. I thought, surely we're going to exact vengeance for her. Her child was murdered. And I would stand and wait for someone to tell me who did it or where to go, and this subject never came up. And instead it was about grace and love and mercy. And she never, uh, told me to go get them. Right. And I was baffled. I was just in awe that someone could walk through that kind of horror, that kind of experience without hatred and vengeance and, all that in their heart. And I said, I need her to be my sponsor because I was so far from that at 3 years sober. And my sponsor is a very spiritual and a woman, and I appreciate that. And Miss Pearl travels with me. And if you get a chance to know Miss Pearl or listen to Miss Pearl, she's just very, and Teresa, like I see these people and they have what I want. So I want what they have. So they say, if you want what they have, do what they do. That wasn't my story in the beginning. I was very desperate to get sober. I did everything they told me to do. I go foot to pavement. I like I'm running from something, right? For the first 3 years. I'm going to meetings, I'm sponsoring women, I'm reading the book, I'm going to big book studies, I'm doing. And the 12 and 12 talks about this. It talks about AAs are very busy. We're very busy doing all these things. And that's what I was doing. I was staying very busy doing all these things. But what was happening to me is that my behaviors weren't changing completely. So there were results from that. Obviously, there's results from that. Uh, but I was 5 years sober and I kicked in my neighbor's door and, threatened to kill everyone in the house and burn the house to the ground by morning, blah, blah, blah. Long story. This is still how I'm responding to fear, to life, to things I can't control. I'm still a bully. I'm still intimidating. I'm still yelling and screaming. And I'm thinking, when is this going to stop? Why am I doing this? 3 years sober, I cussed out my boss, quit my job, threw my keys at him. I mean, I can be an ass. And I'm thinking, why I done the steps. I say the prayers. I sponsor women. Why do I act like this? And finally, at 5 years sober, my sponsor said to me, "Are you ready now to do all the steps?" And I said, "I do all the steps." Why would you say that to me? Very offended. I do all the steps. I sponsor women through the steps. What are you talking about? And she said, the second part of 11. And I just stopped. She said, "You're so surfacey. You'll say the prayers, you'll do the action, but meditation requires a depth. It requires us to dive deeper into those waters. She said, Amy, you're so surfacey. You're never going to find the peace you want. You're never going to find that change in behavior and who you are and your response to things. So you're so surfacey. I want you to know too that until that time, I wasn't a crier. I was a tough girl on the streets. I was a tough girl in sobriety. They used to tell the newcomers, don't go by her, she'll stomp you. You know, these are my defense mechanisms. I'm tough and I'm street and I'm hard and I don't cry. And what are you crying about? And we got to keep it moving and all these things, right? And not that I hadn't cried. I didn't cry in public though. That was for sure. And when I cried, it was very rare and it had to be something, it was a big deal to cry. And then step 11, right? And now my sobriety and the way I'm living and that surfacey relationship with God has got to change. And my sponsors challenged me to do that. And just like the 12 and 12, I love that everything that happens to me is in the book. It's in our literature. And I'm no different. I'm a garden variety drunk, right? And the same things that were true then are true now for garden variety drunk like me. And it says that, we'll avoid it. We'll stay busy and we say our prayers, and isn't that enough? And then we think, oh, meditation's for clergy. It's for, people of higher training or better understanding. It's not for me. I used to always love this was my excuse. Oh, I have ADHD. My brain, I can't meditate. I can't slow down long enough. I've tried it, and brush it off and brush it off and brush it off until until your sobriety at some point requires all the steps, every part of all the steps. And so in year 5 I started this journey into meditation, prayer and meditation. I can do the prayers, right? I like to pray. I was raised Catholic. I know how to light a candle, say a prayer. I'm good at prayer. Meditation, geez, now what an order. God knows he sees so much further than I can. And I had been sponsoring a woman. She's on here tonight, Rachel. And God sent Rachel into our lives, right? And Rachel happened to be really good at meditation, just naturally, just from the beginning. It was an area of interest to her. She explored it. She dove into those waters. And so she had been sharing that with me and her sponsee sisters and, our support group. And so over time, Rachel, I had taken her through the steps and I had, I'm her sponsor, right? But she's teaching me. See, that's what God does. She's teaching me. We have these symbiotic relationships. My sponsor, Delinda, says we sponsor each other in different areas all the time. And so Rachel's teaching us about guided meditation and breathing techniques and all these things. And, I'm like, I should, I'm going to learn it. And so once we finally experimented, right? So here I go. Year 5, and I'm finally going to experiment. I will warn you, if you've not done this yet, get ready for the waterworks because I started crying. I am the biggest crier. I am like an Al-Anon. I just have tissues in my pocket. I'll cry any moment for any reason because of this oneness we connect through meditation, because of this thing in meditation that connects us to all living things, that takes the God in me and connects it to the God in you and the God in the animals and in the earth and in the air and in the trees and in all things around me. And that's overwhelming and it's humbling and it allows me to be safe and vulnerable. That is incredible. I do want to see this too. What the girl, thank you. I think it was Kendra that read in the beginning. Thank you for reading that. It, it talks about that profound sudden experience. And that had happened to me on step 7. I had a profound white light experience and it had frightened me. It frightened me. It felt like electricity. It was not comfortable. It scared me. I knew I had changed in that moment, right? Change. And there was no denying there was a God. I felt like I had sat in a room and he had joined me there and something had transpired, and that's for a different thing. But because of that experience being so deep, not surfacey, See, I'm comfortable surfacing. That had been so profound and so huge and transforming that I was afraid of that. I was terrified to be in a room alone with my higher power like that. And enough that was it. Yeah, just another reason, another excuse that I avoided meditation and keep that relationship so surfacey for so long. But at year 5, I began to explore meditation. So what that looked like for me at first was just breathing, right? Breathing exercises. It was guided meditations. I found them on YouTube. I Googled, step 11 guided meditation, and I would do these guided meditations because I don't know what to think or what to do. And I'm learning. Um, and I would do that. I would do a guided meditation. That practice of doing those things has evolved. I now like to include mind, body, and spirit. So I like to do different yoga poses or stretches that align my back and my spine and my heart and my belly and my sacrum. I like to be aligned with things around me. I like to walk barefoot on the earth. I love the exchange of energy that I can feel, that I can grab hold of when I stand barefoot on the earth and skin to skin. We do that with the newborn babies. They like us to do skin to skin. I like to do a little skin to skin with the earth. I like to do it with trees and in grass and in the mud even, and I just like to feel that primal kind of connection of body and earth and spirit. And I love to stand in the wind. Early in sobriety, a woman told me, a sober woman who was, had done all the steps, including the second half of 11. She told me one time that sometimes when she sits outside and she would feel the wind blow, she said it's to her, it was like God just taking his hand on her face. And that reminded me of a friend, John Anderson, who used to say, I've never seen the wind, but I see what the wind does. And I've never seen God, but I've seen what God does. And so now when I'm sitting outside and I feel a breeze, I feel what God does, and I take it as a gentle caress to my face and to my body. All these things, whatever that looks like for you, going to church, lighting a candle, whatever meditation you practice, the goal, the place to be is that oneness, that connection, that safeness, that vulnerability. That 12 and 12 tells us that once you tap into that, you would no more go without that than you would go without food or air or water. And I think that's true for me. Now, almost 6 years later, do I get busy and run and not take time for that? Absolutely. But body, it catches up quick. It is not long before I'm irritable, restless, discontent. I don't feel like I feel like I'm at odds with the world instead of flowing in that spirit of the universe. And I feel the resistance and I know the fix. I know that I don't have to stay uncomfortable. I don't have to stay in fear. I can take the time to find that pose or that posture. I can take that time for those breaths. I can take that time to be alone in a room with my creator and not be frightened. And it's a beautiful experience. So life goes on, right? So things happen. And this is how meditation helps me and salvages me from myself and from circumstances. My dad died about a year ago, October 13th of 2019. It was just past, it had been a year. Had I not delved into that deeper relationship through meditation with my higher power. When my dad passed, I felt it. I felt God. It wasn't words I was saying, prayers that bounced off the walls and around the room and fell to the ground. It wasn't because you told me whatever you told me. It's because I knew. Just like what Teresa had read, I know different. I know different. I feel different, and then that's proof for me, and that's what matters for me. And when my dad died, I was able to know a knowing, a sense of peace and comfort that allowed me to grieve him in a, as a sober woman, and share that grief with so many others that knew and loved him as well. And these are things that wouldn't have been possible otherwise. Since I started prayer and meditation, I want you to know all my neighbors are much happier. No one has had their door kicked in, not anywhere, not for blocks around, not by me. And so this is a profound change in my personality and actions since I began this practice of prayer and meditation, to have that closer conscious contact with a God. So in prayer, I feel like I'm meeting God in the morning, but through meditation, I feel like I'm connecting to you and I'm connecting to him and I'm connecting to all things. And that moves with me. It is constant wherever I am and whatever I'm doing. Um, it can, get away from me, but there's a path back. There's always a path back. And that's how I like to practice prayer and meditation. I love the prayers. I love the St. Francis prayer. I love all the prayers in the book. I honestly do. Um, my sponsor is big about, what does that mean? That's what she's always asking me. What does that mean? And she's always trying to get me to come off that surface answer and dig a little deeper. What does that mean? And she does that with my prayers. What does that mean? What you're saying, those words, what does that mean? When I say our Father, what does that mean? You know, and 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 the 12 and 12 talks about that, exploring the St. Francis prayer, sitting with it, asking ourselves, what does that mean? And I like to say, what does that look like? What does that look like on me? Because I have to visualize it. So if I'm going to seek to understand rather than be understood, what does that look like? And I'll sit in meditation and I'll allow my higher power to supply me with an imagery, a vision of what that looks like on me. And it's through that I learned to listen, just to listen, not to have an answer, not to provide criticism or critique or advice, even just to listen, listening to understand, and just to sit with someone in agreement with their feelings without trying to fix or change them, and just to be present in whatever's going on with them. If you knew me, you would know. Let victory over them become, bear witness, right? So if you knew that I cannot do that, that like in and of myself, if you tell me something's wrong, I tell you what to do. I'm a fixer, I'm a mom, I'm an oldest child, I'm all those things. You bring a problem, I give you an answer. And you didn't even ask me for one, but I've got one for you. And it's only through prayer and meditation that I've learned to listen without the impulse to fix, direct, criticize, none of that. Um, and that's okay. And that unless asked, I don't have to give you an answer, to your problem. I can just sit there with you. I think that makes me a more effective human being. It brings me closer to who I want to be, what I want to look like, the men and women that I want to grow up and be like. They're not quick to give you any answer. They listen. And then I, like Miss Pearl always says, if I may, or may I make a suggestion, or would you like me to, and of course I'm like, of course I want you to, anything you have to say, I want to hear. But she asks that, and I think, what wisdom, what kindness, what beauty, what strength, what grace to be a woman who can make other women feel okay in their presence, who politely and gently offer advice, direction, or suggestions when asked. That wasn't my story. That's not who came in here. That change is no change I could have made on my own. It's nothing you could have made in me. That change comes directly from prayer and meditation, a conscious contact with the God of my understanding. That is a direct result over time of me exercising this step to the best of my ability. Today's reading and the daily reflection talked about self reflection or self appraisal, and then the prayer, and then the meditation, that circle, right? And it also said it doesn't matter in what order you do them, just do them, and that they will bring you to that place, to be have a better life. And that's true for me. And I don't know how I survived the first 5 years doing uh 10. I'm always hardest on myself. I take my inventory. I do a 10, I do some prayer, and I get busy helping others. No wonder, I no wonder I was 12 stomping women. I had skipped a meditation. So now looking back, I'm glad that I have that comparison. I have that experience of what it's like without it, who I'm like, what I will do, how I make people feel, and then progressing forward in this quest to grow in effectiveness and understanding. That comes from that inventory, that step 11 prayer and meditation. And then we're prepared to work with other people, carry this message, and apply these principles. I can't apply the principle of love and patience and tolerance until I have sat with my creator and felt connected to him, allowed his energy, his strength, his guidance, his love to impermeate me, to move through me, to fill every cell, every space that is in me, and sit in that. you know from that place I can move forward in a more effective and understanding way. I used to say when I first got sober, less of me and more of you. But then I would never sit down with God long enough for that to happen, right? So today I try to sit with my higher power. I try to sit in a silence and a peace and a place where I can breathe, where I can feel, where I can envision. Um, I'm at perfect ease and comfort alone. And you're looking at a person who had to have a TV on, had to have a radio on, had to have noise around me all the time, right? Because the chaos in here was only quieted by the chaos out there. And nowadays, my husband will come home and he'll say, "Why is it so quiet in here?" Because I don't have a TV on, I don't have a radio on, I'm just sitting, and that gift of to be at perfect ease and comfort with myself, in a room with my creator only, and the stillness. I've come to enjoy stillness. I've come to enjoy that place of breath and peace. And that has been an amazing journey, and it continues because nearly 11 years sober, I look ahead at my sponsor, at Miss Pearl, at Tim Highland, at Teresa, Carla, Miss Polly Pizzle. I look ahead at these women that I admire, that I aspire to be like, and I know that I'm doing the things they told me to do. I'm doing the things they set me the example for. I'm doing those things, and I'm growing and I'm learning, and I'm going to skin my knee, and I'm going to forget. And I'm going to have to get back up and say, "Oh my gosh, that's AA basic 101, but I have to recommit and relearn every day so that I can grow." My friend Johnny Gaines said everything I learned in AA has a shelf life of about 48 hours. So I have to keep coming to you. I have to keep being with you and near you, lest I lose my way. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. Teresa is absolutely correct about that. When I signed in, I hear the noise, I hear the laughter. Man, it's like walking into a honky tonk. My adrenaline goes up. I'm smiling ear to ear. I want to start dancing and hollering. Like, I love AA. I love the sobriety. I love the fellowship. I love the energy that we share. And it's essential, and it fills my cup, and when I have done prayer and meditation, I see it for what it is. I see the miracle that is you. I see the miracle that is me. I see the energy and the love and the laughter. I'm aware. But without meditation, I'll go deaf and blind to that. I won't recognize the miracles. They'll be dull. They won't be shiny. They won't be true. But when I sit in meditation, when I sit in prayer, the earplugs come out, the scales fall off from my eyes, and I can see the magic. And I never want to miss the magic. But I have to be plugged in. I have to be prepared. I have to be in a place to see it, to receive it, and to give it. Um, it's been a rough week for me. I joined Al-Anon this week. Hey, I got a sponsor. I'm constantly growing, exploring, and changing. Uh, and God's constantly meeting my needs. You know, but if I'm not tuned into that through that step 11, I'll miss it. I will absolutely miss it. Um, COVID, Teresa, I'm so glad you guys started this because COVID really showed us that what if your Tuesday night meeting's not meeting? How's your sobriety then? Right? What if your home group's not meeting? How's your sobriety then? Because while we all figured out this Zoom, right? We were just the telephones and things like that, but the importance of my spiritual maintenance, right? The importance of my relationship with my higher power and my spiritual program, that became so evident when the fellowship was kind of pulled from us in the way we understood it and have come to know it. I like to think that I grew closer and more reliant on my God through that time. We've all kind of figured out the Zoom thing, and everybody's kind of get on board. And here locally, we do have one or two local meetings that are opening up in person, but social distancing. What am I going to do without my hugs and my and all of those things? But I've had to rely when the chips are down. My sobriety at the end of the day is between me and my higher power, right? Because the big book talks about when the boys went off to war, right? They didn't have meetings, they didn't have fellowship, they didn't have the things we have. And they had their step work, their literature, and their relationship with their higher power. That indicates that is essential, right? What Kendra read. These things are essential. And I'm glad to have it. And I hope you're not trying to have a sobriety without that relationship. And I don't know if that'll work for you or not. I don't think it would work for me. But what I do know is you're missing the good part. That's like going to a buffet, but only drinking coffee. Like the food's up there, like you're missing the good part. You're missing the joyful part. You're missing the inspiration. You're missing the magic if you're not doing that part, because it is in that spiritual realm, it is in that meditation that we are prepared and positioned, and we see life differently. We see relationships and people and events differently, right? And that's where the magic is. I never want to miss the magic. I never want to miss I don't want to miss the miracles. Like in my disease, the world got real gray, right? I didn't see color. I certainly didn't see miracles. I didn't see God's hand in things. I didn't see any of that. I was blind to the magic and the spiritual realm uh, the place that operates beyond our understanding and our earthly eyes. I was blind to all that, and it was boring, and it was gray, and it was depressing, and it was ugly. But through the steps and through sobriety, right, and through prayer and meditation, I've been given a new pair of glasses, right? Like Chuck C says, and I see different and I hear different. And I never want to take these glasses off. I never want to put the cotton back in my ears. I want to stay plugged in. I want to stay connected. I want to be where the magic is. I want to see it. That's what keeps me sober. That's what keeps me happy, and peaceful, even when the things around me are chaotic or seem threatening or not the way I want them to be, right? This morning, as I'm realizing my powerlessness and my children's path that they're on, and my prayer this morning, as I sat with God in the car, right, as I'm meditating, I'm breathing, I'm thinking, and suddenly He reminds me, right? And a thought, then intuitive thought or decision comes to me. And I just started laughing out loud in my truck. I said, I did it again, didn't I? See, the reason I'm so stressed, what God, revealed to me, the reason you're so stressed and you're so worried, my sweet child, is because you're trying to do a job I never asked you to do. You're trying to lift something that is way too heavy for you. That is for me to do. I need you to, and that's why I'm breathing hard and my jaw is clenched and I crying all the time and I'm frustrated, in this relationship with my son. And because I've taken on a job that God never asked me to do, it's not my assignment. That's not what He asked of me. That's His job. And of course, being just little old me, I'm going to struggle to do His job, right? Uh, and so I just laugh because in meditation, he gives me answers. And sometimes this the same thing. I knew that, right? But He reminds me. And so my prayer today was, God, please allow me to be right size in this universe and all my relationships and leave that to you and let me do this next stitch. As Tim Highland says, I'm doing the stitches. I'm going to do this next small thing that God has assigned me to do. And I'm going to leave the heavy lifting to Him. But if I didn't take time for prayer, if I didn't take time for meditation, I would still be breathing hard with my jaw clenched, trying to force and move things that aren't mine to move and to fulfill duties and tasks that were never asked of me, not by my God, right? So, so that's it. I am so looking forward to this next 40 minutes. I'm so excited about this part. I, who wants to hear from me? I want to hear from you guys. I want to be with you in that sense. So I'm so excited about this next part of this meeting. Teresa, thank you for asking me to share. I am just so excited to see all these people from all these places. And I'm just gonna wrap this up and stop because I wanna be with you. And that's all. Thank you, Teresa.